on your Thursday and your golf lineup started off hot. I didn't. I played one lineup in the main slate. I didn't do well, or one, whatever significant buy-in lineup. Didn't do well. Playing a little bit, some big tournaments tonight, but it's the same thing we talked about earlier. It's just going to have to find ways to get a little different. I think there are some ways you can get different within the chalky stacks that I think are interesting. But that's like one route that I actually am pretty okay with. The other would be doing what I'm going to do on DraftKings, which is I'm just going to say F it, and I'm going to do a full 5-man Philly stack. And that's we'll see how that, and my biggest buy-in. I don't think you'll have much ownership on it. I understand how good Lodolo is, and he'll be on one of my 777s on FanDuel. But I personally, I just think that I promised myself I'm always going to consider Philly when they're in good hitters parks. They just lit up Alcantara the other day, who's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like, I don't know why they couldn't get to Lodolo in this park. So I'm going to take a chance. It's not that it's my favorite spot or you have to do it, but I like the idea of taking shots on them there. I didn't get to much Schwarber even in my Philly stacks. I think it might be a mistake. He does have trouble against lefties, but it's more of a price thing about getting them in. Like, I'd rather get Rio Muto, Castellanos in, and Turner. So I guess that's really where I'm at. I basically decided that I'm going to, in my big buy-in on DraftKings, I'm going to stack Philadelphia.
I have 60% Philadelphia throughout all my buy-ins, including the big one myself. So you're not going to get any arguments from me. The one team that I don't want to say struggle with. So I want to play like maybe some Milwaukee or San Diego. Milwaukee, we got to watch the lineup also because if you play them, because Winker is still, I think, still questionable, whatever. So make sure you get the right guys there, whether Weimer plays or something like that. Mm-hmm. But those are my top. So Philly is my top owned stack, followed by actually, as far as 5-mans, I want to play Milwaukee, but also a little bit of Minnesota also, just for fun. Mm-hmm. So that's where I am right now.
And for what it's worth, my number one pitcher on FanDuel is Bassett. And BBF comes in with the question. We get this a lot, and it's a very common thing in the DFS industry, but I don't really understand it with our stuff because none of us ever said anything about – I guess you weren't interested in Brito. I do have some interest in Brito on DraftKings especially, but I don't understand the question, why is he a bad play? I don't remember none of us ever said he was a bad play.
I don't have much of Brito. My pitching has changed a little bit. I actually am almost locked in with Bassett actually. And then I also have the next highest owned guys are Ryan, Nick Martinez, and Falter from Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. I'm under on Lodolo, under on Montgomery, and a little sliver of Brito, and that's where I am right now.
Yeah, and I think that I don't think it's really that any about everybody being a good play. One thing is Minnesota released their good lineup, not their bad lineup today, so that's one thing. That's horrible. It's excellent hitting conditions in New York. Obviously, not good pitching conditions at all.
It's 1,000 degrees here.
The Brito has probably one of the shortest leashes of anybody on the slate, even if he pitches incredibly well. In fact, I don't know if he's given up a run yet. And he still only pitched to 17 and 20 batters in his 2 starts. Is that right? That's what I've got here. So I just don't see. I mean, I don't think there's any question that he doesn't have anywhere near the upside of these other guys. But yeah, I definitely have him in the mix. The only reason I prefer a guy like Nick Martinez over him is Nick Martinez has thrown 100 pitches in both of his starts this year, and Milwaukee, can struggle offensively, and they have a lot of strikeouts in their lineup, and Minnesota's lineup is not great either. But you're talking about 88-degree weather with 11 to 15 mile an hour winds blowing out in New York versus the 53-degree weather in San Diego, which is already one of the best pitchers parks in baseball. So that's really my argument for why he's not a it doesn't really make any there's no it happens a lot where it looks like somebody should be this or that, and I just don't think this is that situation. The guy who I'm the most afraid to be under on is Joe Ryan, because I think he's probably, hard to say, the best pitcher on the slate. He and Lodolo would be the two best pitchers on the slate, I guess. And I guess you could make an argument for Bassett, just overall. But Ryan, it does scare me not to have more of Joe Ryan, personally. That's where I'm at. The low, but the low price Reds, I don't think, I think the Reds are going to be pretty popular. And you can do whatever you want, no matter who you pitch. It really doesn't matter who you could put the two most expensive pitchers. It's literally that you can still basically play whoever you want to. There's just enough value bats out there, and you don't need to have everything correlate 5-3, 5-2, whatever today. Although I am using a 5-man stack in my biggest buy-in. I think on FanDuel I would lean more toward. I just think the correlation is so much more important over there, which I always sort of talk about. But actually, I'm looking at Cincinnati. It looks like Cincinnati. So ownership-wise, Sheets, that's sort of where I've got it. I've got Toronto, St. Louis, then Cincinnati. Is that roughly where you're at? I'm just looking through the things. I think it's right around there.
You mean like top owned stacks and stuff?
Yeah.
With me, it's Philly, and then Minnesota, Milwaukee, and then the Yankees.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to figure out more who outside of Toronto.
Who should be highly owned?
Yeah, St. Louis.
I guess St. Louis. I'm getting very little than myself, but I don't have a reason why. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes sense. I also want to point out, there's you can stack Toronto more profitably, I think, on FanDuel than you can on DraftKings, because Matt Chapman is 4,500. The only player in the same price tier of him is Aaron Judge. They made him crazy expensive, so he becomes my biggest priority. I actually wish he was batting further down in the lineup, so he'd really you'd see 4 or 5% ownership, I think, because there's other good he's 1,300 more than Machado on FanDuel.
Right.
So that's one way you can get different. The other way to get different, I would suggest, is playing one of Kirk or Belt with Vlad, and immediately you have a 5% owned play and a 9% owned play from my favorite stack, which is going to be different enough to at least give you a chance in a 300-person field. Does that make any? You're not playing on FanDuel, I take it, today, Sheets, right?
No, I'm not playing on FanDuel. I'm trying to think. Are you playing Turner at 6,300?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like anything you want to get in, I felt like it was pretty easy to do. You've got Will Myers as value. You've got if you're playing the Philly stack, Bryson Stott's cheap, Brandon Belt's super cheap. Frenchie Cordero, who just seems to hit a home run every day.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then you've got guys like Walker for St. Louis and St. Louis stacks. That's cheap. There's just a lot of ways you can go for cheapish plays that I don't think that you have to worry too much about spending all the way up, unless you're particularly only want the top end bats for some of these things. And I'm happy to take the Brandon Belts in the world and just take shots there. Go ahead, Chiefs.
No, you could even play. Just for cheapo, you could play Nick Senzel at 2K flat.
Where's he hitting?
6th.
Oh, I actually didn't realize he was in the lineup today yet because I hadn't taken a look at that. Okay. Yeah, I actually think it's a pretty interesting play. I'm going to put that down there. It's a guy to get off of all of my, I have way too much Will Myers exposure, and there's no reason I shouldn't have some Senzel instead. So pitching wise, you went through sort of what you were doing. I'm looking at my current ownership on DraftKings. Now these are very much going to change. I have Montgomery at 45% on DraftKings. Bassett I have at only 33, but he's in one of my biggest buy-ins, and then he's in my biggest buy-in on FanDuel. So he's actually probably in more than half of my lineups, maybe about 60% of the allocated funds. Right now I have Nick Martinez way too much, 70%.
Wow.
I'm probably going to lower that. It's not like I think Martinez is some amazing pitcher, but I'll take anybody with a leash. The price is right, and it's Milwaukee, who we've seen them. Merrill Kelly almost had a no-hitter the other day going against them, So I'm probably going to lower that Nick Martinez exposure, get a little bit more Bassett on DraftKings, and then I'm probably going to have to get a little more. I just keep stacking Philadelphia, so I'm obviously not playing Lodolo in those lineups. But I am going to probably end up with a little bit more than 20% Lodolo, but maybe not that much. The fact that he's being as owned as he is on FanDuel is kind of throwing me for a loop. I actually think like Bassett is the correct play. He's 7,300 versus 10,8. And not that you need it, but if you did want to spend on the get different guys like the Chapman, you kind of do need it.
Right.
A little bit. So I just think that's kind of interesting. And outside of Bassett, Lodolo, and Montgomery, I don't think anyone's getting any real ownership on FanDuel. So I think you can decide to play any of those other guys you want to. But I do like – go ahead, Chiefs.
No, I mean, I'll tell you who I have quite a bit of, and that is the aforementioned Joe Ryan.
Yeah, I think I might have to get some of that. I'm just a little worried. The hot weather, a couple of fly balls get out of there early, and maybe he just gets roughed up and they beat up on the bullpen.
Sure.
But Joe Ryan could get there. Yeah, but people can say whatever. I mean, people should be a believer of Lodolo regardless of what he does today. That's what my take on this is. I don't care who you like. He's good. He is talented. I also think this Philly team is it's one of the least likely teams for me to ever take a pitcher against this season. I'll probably do it with Scherzer. That's about it, Right. Like it just makes my head. And then this is not even their A lineup, This is because there's no Bryce. You know what I mean? They're going to only get better. And Bryson Stott is still coming into his own sort of, but they're pesky. They just even like guys like Josh Harrison being in there at the bottom. Like there's just enough guys that just like annoy you. So I'm taking the Philly side of things, and it's a small slate, so we got to gamble, right?
That's correct.
And I know you haven't. I won't ask how your golf lineups are doing.
No, I have no idea.
Not that it matters even unless your guys are, 3 or 4 over right now, I guess.
Yeah. Homa didn't have a good day.
Who did?
Homa did not have
a rough one today. He was going along fine, but then I think he had a double or a triple somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I played way too much Minwoo Lee. It's not that he's so bad. He's only played 8 holes. He's +1. But I just feel like, God, I really just could have gotten so many different things that, without making that. I have a ton of Aaron Rye, who's 4 under 3, which is nice.
Okay.
So that could be something. And I have a ton of. I ended up with 15% Putnam, who ended the day at 4 under. That was nice. This is off topic of this, but is there staking in DFS? Yeah, there is. Stake Kings. Go to Stake Kings. Enter TrueDFS under your code when you sign up, and that's where you do it. I can't remember what we're getting, but from them because we're figuring out a longer term deal. But StakeKings.com is where you want to go. Top stack on FanDuel. I think it's Toronto, but I think it's Toronto doing what I said. Like it's really cool when you can play the team with the highest total and play the low ownership part. On DraftKings, I don't think anybody's going to be single digit owned, and I think that they'll all be in the 20s, basically, mostly. On FanDuel, I think that Witt is going to be low owned. I think that Kirk will be almost unowned, and I think Belt will be low owned and Chapman. So I think you can include 3 of those guys and then play them with Biggio too, and play them with Vlad, and that would be my strategy of how to stack them. So I think the answer is Toronto for me on FanDuel. But I wouldn't just play. Don't just play Springer, Bichette. Those guys are going to be 30% owned. Springer, Bichette, Vlad. I am playing Vlad with the other guys. I love Varsho today, but even if you play Vlad and Varsho with Chapman and Kirk, let's say, or Belt, I think you're just getting low enough owned because you're locking up the first base position there. I think that's a pretty good way to go. No problem, Fred. I actually still have some packs up there. FanDuel gave me a free entry to the 777, so I sold it a little more.
God, look at that.
What's that?
Look at that.
Yeah, I love when they do it. Just out of the blue, he just said, "Hey, I got a free 777 for you." Yeah, Biggio is. I hear you, but I don't think that's the priority of what I just said. But yeah, that's Biggio is definitely the lower priority side. And he just hit a home run the other day. I wouldn't say that he never does anything. But yeah, dude, you have to get different. You have to embrace some stuff to get different. Like you can't just play the top Toronto guys and go. We can't just say, "Oh, this guy sucks," or "Look, Brandon Belt sucked so far this year." You just can't do that. Like you got to embrace some of it.
Just to tell you about a $60 donation, I have 3 lineups with Spencer Turnbull in it. So.
Oh, okay. Hey, why not? How many lineups you playing, Sheets?
40.
Oh, well, that's it's a nice crisp 8%.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot more to go through on this slate, unfortunately. Like I want to keep the momentum going. We have less than people than usual. I knew it was going to be like this today because it's kind of like that one of those weird slates that a lot of people probably just skipped, and I don't know, maybe they're paying attention to golf or something. But if there's any other questions or thoughts, I'm happy to answer them. I just don't know what else to talk about.
You like Craig Biggio at 2,400 in the 9-hole?
Well, we just talked about that. He would be my least favorite actual play, but because of his lower ownership, I think that he makes him more in play. He very possibly gets 2 at bats. So just beware of that. Like it won't be surprising if he does, but there's a chance he gets his full at bats. It's unlikely, but even if he gets, he's averaging out to right around 3 at bats per game that he plays. Pretty much almost regardless. It seems like a score.
That's not very healthy.
No, but I mean, it's just what it is. What it is. They're a little better this year where they actually have some lefties and they don't need to play Biggio in the 2-hole. How do I choose my one-off guys? I pick my favorite plays. That's really how I choose them. There are guys with the home run speed upside and good matchups like Buxton, Judge, and these are going to be pretty popular guys. But like, if I pick my one-offs, actually Buxton, I don't think is going to get that much ownership. At least on DraftKings, he won't. I think on FanDuel he will. Judge, you're looking for speed power combinations in decent or reasonable enough matchups in general, but that's how I pick them. Which pitcher would I recommend for what? DraftKings, FanDuel. We just went through them all, so happy to talk about it again, Jolly. But like, if you give me a site or something like that, or I went through my ownerships of each on FanDuel. I'm using Bassett and Lodolo in my big buy-ins. On DraftKings, I have almost no Lodolo, and I'm higher on Montgomery, Nick Martinez, Bassett, and Brito because I want to play Philly over there. FanDuel, I would play Bassett as my number 1, and Lodolo as my number 2. And John Rahm certainly looks like he's got the Masters hangover.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just can't make a putt, and he almost made that one. But he's 2 over through 11. He may not be cut making. And same thing with Sheets. This might have been the time to pull out your thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter. But like Scheffler's struggling too. All right, can't play Cronenworth, Matt Carpenter, or Cruz. Why not? I like Cronenworth especially. And I really want us not to be the site that's in the habit of this guy's been terrible for a week, so we can't play him. Like I really don't want us to be like those other guys. I'm not going to name names, but I just think that it's too often we see that. I can't follow everything along though, BBF. Like it's hard when you lightning quick something, so I can't like read every previous thing, especially when there's other people in between. Padres have 3 first basemen on DK. Oh, I got you. There you go. Gotcha. But so on DK you can't play all of them. Well, Cronenworth is listed. Isn't he a second base eligible? That's second base eligibility on FanDuel, doesn't he? On DraftKings. That is really stupid. I mean, I agree. I 100% agree with that statement. But that is really weird that they only. Actually, it's only Cruz and Cronenworth who are first base eligible, which is weird.
Now, this is going to be. This is not going to take anybody by surprise, but you have Edward Julian at 2K leading off for Minnesota tonight in good weather, and he's apparently very good. So.
That's so funny because my research about him is the exact opposite.
Okay.
That they don't think that he's quick enough to steal at the major league level, and he has no power whatsoever.
Oh, I thought they said above average power. Okay.
that's what I read. But I just read a little bit on him. I mean, I haven't done a deep dive enough, so I'm just throwing it out there. I didn't necessarily think about it, but he is. I thought he was going to bat 8th, so I didn't do too much of a deep dive. But now I would actually consider maybe doing a little bit of a deeper dive on him. I don't know if I'll have time, but 2K leading off is 2K leading off. And he also takes up the second base position, which is not the strongest position on the slate. Let's put it that way. Maybe the weakest position on the slate.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a really good play, and like playing him instead of Nick Gordon batting 7th, 800 or more, or something like that. But he might end up being really popular, actually.
I know.
He really might be.
I say it's not going to come as any surprise to anybody.
Yeah. Actually, maybe playing the Nick Gordon in the same game, if you have any Minnesota pieces, that's the right way to go, because he's batting 7th at 2,800. Yeah, DraftKings I've always said this. I wish DraftKings had a utility spot. I've always been a big fan of the utility spot thing, especially with modern day baseball, because everybody plays a DH now. I think that there should be a utility spot on all DFS personally, because too much position crossover. It's ridiculous. It does make things really fun on FanDuel, though. You just play the same position guys every time, and people just don't like to build that way for whatever reason. All right. What else do we got, guys? Fire on any thoughts. I posted some early stuff. Well, not some early stuff, but I'll have some thoughts on the NBA one tomorrow. I got crushed. Well, not crushed. I only had 4 bets. It was my first 0 for day, though, in a while yesterday. I do think that I like both underdogs for what it's worth for tomorrow for the NBA.
What's the spreads tomorrow?
The Bulls are 5.5-point underdogs at Miami, and the what's it called? I don't know why I can't get my head straight. What's it called? The Thunder are, I think, 6.5-point or 6-point dogs at Minnesota.
I don't know about that second game, but I definitely like Chicago against the spread against Miami.
Me too. I like them, by the way.
Here's a guy who's not doing well. Is Russell Henley is +2.
Let's go, David Alexander. Russell Henley's +2.
Russ Henley +2. He still has some holes left, but he was very popular as well.
Aaron Wright at 5 under through 9. Wow, look at that. 3% ownership on him.
Oh, the once and future king Tom Hoagie is +3 for the day.
Tom Hoagie has the best advanced stats in all of golf, and it somehow can't seem to make a cut. What keeps happening?
Cannot seem to make a cut. That is correct.
He's the best tee to green. He's the best iron player. He's the best.
The best guy watching everybody play on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. He's really, what he is really good at, though? He's really good at shooting. He's done this a few times already in the last 12 months. He'll shoot 4 over and basically look or 5 over, look like he's totally out of it. Then he'll shoot 9, 8, 9. He shot 10 under one time after shooting 6 over day 1, and he had a 1% chance to make the cut, and he shot 10 under day 2.
I'll tell you who's looking like pretty good chalk so far is Fitzpatrick and Fowler. I mean, those guys are both doing pretty well. Fitzpatrick's -5, Fowler's -4.
Yeah. Fowler was one of my biggest ones and my big buy-ins. Hovland didn't get played a bunch. He's only 15% or no, 11% or so. I think I had 15% of them. I just went so heavy on Justin Thomas and Fleetwood.
Harmon -6. That's
just tilting for me because I ended up playing a ton of him at the Masters where he was.
Oh, when he was a lefty, right?
He lost to Larry Mize, I think.
Larry Mize beat him, huh?
Yeah. To answer Clay's question, I think the question is, which would you not play in the utility spot on FanDuel? On a slate like this, I really don't care. I'm doing a lot of the catcher, first baseman in the same game thing. That's what I'm doing on FanDuel. No, I don't like either of those, Eric. That's not my favorite way. I think playing Philadelphia is my favorite way to get different on FanDuel. My favorite way is to use the Blue Jays that will be low owned because they can't be that owned if you play Chapman. Yeah. One way you could stack the Blue Jays. We really want no ownership on the Blue Jays. You could play at first base, Belt, the utility spot. You use Kirk. Then you play Chapman, and then you can pick whoever you want.
You could go 6, 7, 8, 9. You could play with Merrifield and Biggio too. I mean,
You can't do 5 though on FanDuel. I was saying if you use the catcher.
Okay.
Because I literally think that there will be like one lineup that has Belt in the big one. I think there's probably one lineup that ends up with Belt and Kirk only, maybe 2. You know. So I actually think, and that's one of my favorite things to do is to stack stack in a different way and when it makes sense.
What is the story with tomorrow's slate? Tomorrow is a day. No, tomorrow. Oh, full 7:05 or tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
The Fridays are the always the night ones in baseball. Usually the Cubs are the day game. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't have that much falter, but I have no problem with him. Sheets likes him.
He's fine. He's fine enough. I mean, again, it's a terrible pitching slate.
Yeah, just get do whatever. Wow, Zach John, nice BBF. Like Zach Johnson and Patrick Rogers, those guys are like completely unknown, and they're both rolling too.
Golf is an amazing sport.
It is. I'm very upset. I was very upset I didn't play my Scott Stallings. Then I realized the guys I was going to play him over are actually doing just as well, like Aaron Rye.
There it is.
We'll see. He's going to be your day one leader. Okay. Jimmy Walker. Like, what the hell? It's such a weird sport. It's such a weird game. It's so weird. You look at this board and everything that made so much sense to you, it's like, now it makes no sense. Oh, Minwoo just got a birdie. Okay. He's going to birdie that. He can't not birdie that hole. They've got that somewhat drivable part, whatever. Yeah. He's going to hit the ball over that freaking thing. And it's drivable par 4, but everybody hits the ball and the trap's right around it because there's like an out of bounds thing. He just is going to go for it every time. It's just a matter of if you can get it to stop. Stacking Twins and Pittsburgh. I'm not a big fan of Pittsburgh, but Montgomery stacks never work. And also, I don't think you need to stack. I really think we're like, yes, I am doing some stacks. On FanDuel, it makes more sense to me. I really don't think you need full stacks on 5-game slates. That's one also just automatically.
Definitely. You're definitely right about that. 5-game slates, no way. I mean, not no way, but you don't need them is what I'm saying.
Right.
I don't think it's too much, Eric. 75% basket.
I don't think so either, by the way. But I mean, look, it's not one of these things where we come back on a 5-game slate and go, oh my God, how could we possibly played so much Bassett? I don't subscribe to these kind of things. I hate when other sites do that. So I always get nervous when I'm like, no, 75%. If you want to play 100% Bassett, I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah, I agree.
What's one thing that's showing up now, and maybe people aren't getting this? Are they going to start Colin Ray?
Yeah.
It's official?
Yeah.
You didn't play any of them?
If I'm playing him?
Like, why not?
I was going to play San Diego. No?
It's more just like, it's a bullpen game.
Oh, okay.
So it makes it a little bit less interesting to me. But, like, you have terrible hitting weather, a guy they haven't seen. He probably is going to only pitch 3 or 4 innings. But if we don't like the pitching that much, getting the 12 points like you did yesterday from what's it? I can't remember his name. We said it a bunch of times yesterday.
Batted ball data? What's it called?
Battenfield.
Battenfield, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting. Strider was fine, though. I mean, he was on – Eric says that like it's a bad thing. I think it's probably a little – I think that had I known the ownership would be quite as high as it was, I definitely would have had – I did actually – I mean, I probably had 40% of them. But, yeah, definitely if it gets to the 80% on the pitchers, it's really hard to argue for, like – especially guys who, like, can get a little bit wild at times.
Yeah. Well, 93% Strider. That's
probably that's like near the field.
You were near the field, and it didn't hurt. It really didn't hurt you at all. I mean, like
no, not even a little bit. It is pretty crazy though that the cheapest pitcher has basically been the highest scoring pitcher on every slate lately.
Pretty funny.
Or sorry, the lowest owned pitcher, Corbin Burns, Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert at 2.5% yesterday against the Cubs. People are gonna that was like such an obvious one that people are going to go back at and go, oh, well, we shouldn't be surprised he was against the Cubs. But he was dominant. Remember, even with weather games, you still have to put the ball in play. And there are people who throw no hitters in Colorado. It happens. Yeah, I'm not going to weigh in on the Chris Sale thing because I think that the perception of him being watched, and you're just saying it emotionally, Eric. Like I know you played him in your thing.
He gave up a 3-run homer to Rosarena. I mean,
what happens? You give up a 3-run homer, that's it. Like that, you get that guy out, and all of a sudden we're talking about Secret Sale at six innings and no hits and so no runs. You never. I do think that you're going to want to pick on him, but I think the perception is going to go too far the other way, and people are going to do that to where it's going to make him like a really interesting, like 6,800 7K play next time he pitches. And I'm just probably going to roll with the variance on those ones.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish building my lineups because I've got a few to get through. I'm probably going to get out of here in just a minute. Is there anything else?
No, I'm going out for the night very shortly. I mean, I'll be back later, but I won't be around for lock and all those good stuff. Like, so when people get ruled out, I'm not going to be here. But I doubt anybody gets ruled out.
Yeah, I think that we'll probably.
I'll be back to Sweat Edmonton, by the way. I've Edmonton and hockey.
All right, there you go. How many more games left in the hockey season?
Not much.
It's got to be almost over.
Yeah, not much. And
we can do that. We can do the playoff NBA and NHL stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not giving up. I reached out to DraftKings about the basketball game. Let's see if they could hook me up for game.
Oh yeah.
Game 3 is the one that I'd be interested in. Let's see if they can help me.
They better, man.
I got it. They won't, but it's okay. They also supposedly the guy told me that he was going to hook me up for the MMA thing, which I want to go to on May 6th. So one or the other, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Hopefully both. Anyway, good luck. Have a good night, Sheets. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Good luck, everybody.